we're on our next one now. This time what we're going to do, we're going to draw at an eye level, which I already did. Go ahead. All the way across. I put a 1 point vanishing point right about there. And we're going to draw a 1 point sidewalk. First, I just want to explain we're going to do a sidewalk knowing that the sections are equal by creating a reference point off to the left, and then we're going to lift a section of the sidewalk out and float it over to the side, but still retain the correct size for that floated section. Okay? So let's start. It's going to do a basic 1 point sidewalk coming forward. And we'll do our front section. Okay. That's random. The whole thing's random so far. Then I'll go ahead and fill out the depth, what I want the depth to be. Maybe that. Okay, a little further. Okay, so I'll randomly decide the depth. So we've randomly made our first section of sidewalk. And I'll call this A, corner B, corner C. Now, since I want to reference it, I'll use my blue pencil, and I'm going to take corner A because I want to go through kitty corner to B, and that will make a reference point. Okay. Right there. And I'll call that reference point number 1. And what that gives me is a reference diagonally through my first square into infinity, corner to corner. Well, that will also serve as how to create all the new sections of sidewalk also to the same reference point, corner to corner. So let's go to C and repeat. So we've gone through it, we'll go back, then through it again, and where it strikes the side plane on the left, we'll have our next section. So over, striking, over to make the reference. Where it strikes against the wall is where we get our new section. So I'll take my T-square, bring it back up, and I'll draw the second section. So far, we randomly picked the first section. We designated corner A, B, and C. We went ahead and we referenced diagonally through the first section to get reference point 1. And that will give us the rest, by the same referencing, that will give us our rest of our sections. So I'm going to call this new corner D, and one after that E. And we'll do the same thing again, starting at corner E, kitty corner, from the reference point, going across, striking, going across. And again, we'll draw back with our T-square just to be clean, neat, and clear. Third section, and we'll go ahead, just do a fourth for the heck of it. So I'll take my blue pencil one more time, cast it back. I don't have to label them each time. I'm doing it for the purposes of our next move. Again, I'll leave that one blank and just say kitty corner through gives us our next square. There we go, right there. So now we've got 4 correctly even diminishing squares of a sidewalk in 1 point. And I can keep labeling. This could be F. That could be G if we wanted to. A, B, C, D, E, F, going through, G, on and on and on. So it's a Z pattern. Z, Z, through and through. First one's random. I could be over here just as well on the right, but I decided it's more convenient, so I'd made my sidewalk a little bit over to the right, a little more, so we had room for that reference point. Okay, now what we're going to do after we've done this is we're going to lift the second section of sidewalk out. So we're going to make sure we make it clear that we're concerning ourselves now with the second section of sidewalk. So go ahead and tone in that second section. Simple. And we'll go ahead and lift that out of there. So now we've got our second section of sidewalk. B, C, D, E. Okay. And we're going to randomly say we want the new, what was corner B, the front corner B, I'm going to randomly say I want somewhere up here, not too far forward so we can stay in our diagram okay, but I'm going to say I want the new corner to be right here. Oops. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and draw. Will be the new corner, so the section will still be in 1 point, so we're going to go back and draw. We're also going to draw forward, or horizontally, to the new corner. Probably a little longer than I need to be, okay? So, if that's my new corner, that's my old corner because I'm lifting a section out like I'm floating it and placing it on top of the front one. What I need to do is I need to make a reference point from my new corner through my old front corner left, new front corner left, old front corner left. Go ahead and drive a reference point or drive a line to a reference point I can create on the horizon line. New corner, old corner, reference point number 2. All right, now that we have a reference point, I should be able to logically say, I can come through now the back corner left and also make a mark for what the back corner of the new square should be right there. So there's the back corner of the new square. Now I know I have to draw over horizontally to finish off the back plane. Okay. Now the logic is, why don't I go ahead and go through the old corner on the right, back corner right, and to create the new back corner right on the red square. Old back corner right, E, going to the new square corner. Also drawing forward. And then finishing shape off back to my original vanishing point, of course, is important to finish the square off. So we can check it basically and say, all right, is it accurate? This corner now, the new corner, front corner right, I should be able to go through the new left corner back and still arrive at my reference point if I'm basically correct. So let's just check that. Sure enough, looks pretty well right back there. All right, so there's my new section. Let's go ahead and label. We can just call this process X. We can say this is Y. This is Z. Okay. So the important thing is we can still do the whole zigzag thing. Front, zigzag to get the thing. So we're going to start from the front. We're going to go back and we're going to go over, and we could do that. We could do a whole raised section that is properly going back. But the whole point of this was we only wanted the one section coming forward. So let's tone that in. And again, this is just all ground referencing. Pretty fast. And again, this becomes much more helpful on a large canvas even, or anything where you're laying in a large image and just trying to figure out scale. And again, this could be done with wet paint on a painting. As long as you have a little raised straight edge, you can draw a lot of this in. You don't have to necessarily, do some incredibly, careful drawing. As long as you're paying attention to your horizon line and your image and you know basically where you're making your reference points, you can get a very good gauge on proper sizing, especially if you're, on a larger canvas. So what did we do? Let's go back over really carefully. Let me go draw a little harder on some of these. I'm going to recreate this square again. Okay. So let's review. Okay. We started with the original front section of the sidewalk, completely randomly. We drew the idea of a sidewalk coming forward from a 1-point vanishing point. We then decided the depth of it, so we closed it off and made this first section. Then by creating a reference point from going from corner A through B on the first section, we created reference point 1. We then only had to draw back and keep repeating that pattern going through the side left plane, and that gives us our next section, repeat, next section, repeat, next section. So we drew 4 sections of sidewalk. Then we decided to take the second section, shade it blue, and decide to bring it and lift it forward in our imaginations, but still wishing to retain the proper size for a square coming forward that matches the size of the previous. But now it's lifted to the right and lifted forward. But it's still flat on the ground. So how did we do that? Well, in this case, we decided we could take the desired front corner of the new section, which we had to decide randomly, and that's all we decided. We knew that front corner would still run back and go back to the 1-point vanishing point, and we knew the other plane would go across the picture plane horizontally. So we overdrew those lines a little bit to start with just that corner. We then simply took this corner through the old front left corner of section B to use section B as a reference, and we made a reference point 2. That allowed us to come through the old back corner of D left to make and strike that plane to make the new back corner of the red section. We also could take the old right back corner called E, come back from the reference point through that to strike the back plane we now knew we could draw in when we got our new corner Z. So essentially, you're just piece by piece putting together this new reference triangle. Then we just found that point and closed it off as a square. So by this reference method, we just designed it. You don't have to find that corner first. Any one of these three could have been easy to find if we desired to start anywhere within here. We decided to start in this front corner, work back, work over, then strike the plane. It's coming through old corner D, through old corner E, and originally through old corner B to get X. Then we just drew the shape out, and we have a lifted sidewalk that's is a properly sized section from what we had before with the other 4 sections. So again, simple ground referencing, but it starts giving us an idea of the different things we can do. These could be the bases of much more complicated houses or rectangles. So I want you to start imagining now, when we keep going into these diagrams that are simpler for referencing and scaling, which we're going to still have 4, 5, 6 more that are going to be, really straightforward referencing and sizing and scaling. The idea is these can, of course, be, eventually raised as footprints of houses or everything. And, obviously, we could repeat the same shape over and over by referencing the entire shape. But we're not going to quite reference an entire complicated shape till a little bit to the end. And we're going to carry some rectangles around, like pretend they're little houses, and do a little referencing 3 or 4 different structures around the picture plane that are the same, to the same parallel, operating to the same vanishing points, but are in very different positions around the picture plane. But for now, we're doing these simpler shapes, okay? So there are 4 sections of sidewalks with 1 raised up, the blue one raised, brought forward to make the red one. Okay, very good. On to the next.